Hello friends, so today we will see the anatomy of the skin. We will see what is skin is, how it looks like in the slide in the light microscopy. So we will see the detailed anatomy of the skin. So if you see the human body, the whole of the body is covered by the structure, the layer that is known as skin. Okay, so if you see the skin, it is having some different layers. The two different layers of the skin are the topmost layer is known as epidermis, and below the epidermis, the structure is known as dermis. So these two structures they form the skin. So here you can see this is the part of the epidermis, then you can see the dermis, then you can see the dermis, and below the dermis, the layer is known as hypodermis. And below the hypodermis, you have the part of the deep fascia, and then the muscles are there. This is the schematic view of the human skin. If you see, the skin is having two parts, the epidermis and the dermis. The superficial part is known as epidermis, where you can see the duct of the glands, different type of glands, sebaceous gland, sweat gland, the duct, they open into the epidermis. You can see the hair follicle. Then below the epidermis, a thick layer is present that is made up of the connective tissue layer, and that is known as dermis. That is known as dermis. And below the dermis, the layer is consist of adipocyte, that is areolar tissue, and this is the layer that is known as hypodermis, and the another name of hypodermis is superficial fascia. Below the superficial fascia, we have a layer of connective tissue layer that is known as deep fascia, and then you can see the muscle layer. So this is the whole view of human skin and the structures. So human skin basically comprised of epidermis and the dermis. If you see the epidermis, this epidermis consists of different layers. Basically, it is having 5 layers. If you see the microscopic anatomy, you will find that epidermis is composed of 5 different type of layers. The topmost layer, if you see the topmost layer, it is known as stratum corneum. Below the stratum corneum, you have a layer that is known as stratum lucidum, then stratum granulosum. Then below the granulosum, you have a thick layer of polygonal cell that is known as stratum spinosum, because the cell is having spine-like projection, so this is known as stratum spinosum. And then one cell thick cuboidal cell layer, that is basically the germinating layer, because this layer can only the layer which can divide, which can give which have the power of the cell division. So this layer is known as stratum basale or the germinativum layer. Then below the stratum germinativum, you have the part of the dermis. So this is the dermal area, and this is the epidermal area, where you can see the 5 layers of the epidermis. The dermis is basically composed of 2 layers. One is known as papillary layer, and another one is known as reticular layer. So again, this dermis, suppose this is dermis, it is again divided into 2 layers. The topmost, that is superficial layer, is known as papillary layer, which is toward the basement membrane of the stratum basale, that is the part of epidermis, and just below the papillary layer of the dermis, you have the second layer of the dermis, which is known as reticular part of the dermis. So in this image, you can see the skin is basically of 2 types: the thin skin and the thick skin. In the thin skin, what is the difference between the thin skin and the thick skin? First of all, the location. If you see the location of the thin skin, most of the part of the body it is covered by the thin skin, where you can see the hair follicle. But there are few areas in the body that is covered by the thick skin, like the sole and the palm, the skin of the sole and the palm, the skin of the sole and the palm. So in this area, you will find that there is no hair follicle. There is no hair follicle, and the skin is quite thick because you can see this layer, which is known as stratum corneum. It is thicker in comparison to the thin skin. This is the region of the stratum corneum of thin skin. This is the image of the thin skin, and this is the image of the thick skin. You can see that the stratum corneum is quite thin in case of thin skin, but it is thick in case of thick skin. The another difference is that you can see the second layer, which is known as stratum lucidum. It is present in case of thick skin, while in case of thin skin, there is no stratum lucidum. The stratum lucidum is absent. Okay. Next, you have the thick stratum uh, spinosum in case of thick skin, while the stratum spinosum layer is thinner. Layer is thinner. You can see the differences in a Horner's table because these differences are asked in your exam. So in thin skin, you will find the epidermis, the total thickness of the skin is less in comparison to the thick skin. You will find that the stratum corneum is thinner, the stratum lucidum is absent, and also the stratum spinosum is thicker in case of thick skin, and it is less in thickness in case of thin skin. Then you have the hair follicle present. The thin skin is usually hairy, while it is non-hairy, there is no hair follicle in case of thick skin. Okay. Then you have sebaceous gland present. Sebaceous gland is absent in case of thick skin. Sweat glands are few in number if the skin is thin. And in thick skin, as you can see, there is more sweating in the region of palm and sole. Because why? Because there is more number of sweat glands. Okay. Then the sensory nerve endings are less in case of thin skin, while it is more in number in case of thick skin. Mainly, the thin skin is present in the area of the palm and the sole, while the thick skin is present outside. The most of the body part of the body is covered by the thin skin, while the area of palm and the sole it is covered by the thick skin. You can see in your body the area of the skin which is present in the palm and the sole region is quite thick. What are the major functions of the skin? The skin, it helps in protection, it protects the body, it acts as thermoregulation, it also prevents the loss of body fluids, so it also acts as hydroregulation, that it is having so many sensory receptors, and it also helps in absorption of lipid soluble substance and ultraviolet rays. Besides this, uh, it acts as a vitamin D synthesis of vitamin D, and it also acts as excretion of waste material in the sweat. So these are the functions of the skin, and most importantly, the largest organ in our body. Okay, so the skin is the largest organ in our body. So this is about the anatomy of the skin. Rest of the thing, what are the various modification of the skin or the appendages of the skin, like we will talk about the hair, the nail, and there are different glands present in the dermis. We will talk about all these things in our next class. Okay, so this is all about the skin. You have to remember the different level of epidermis, dermis, and you have to draw a very nice picture, physiological, I mean macroscopic anatomy or the light macroscopic structure of the skin. So that's all. Thank you.